I think this is one of the most important things to work on in that middle to late stage of ACL rehab. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the single leg step off landing. I think this is one of the most important things to work on in that middle to late stage of ACL rehab. This is a progression, so it's harder than what you would think about for a step off for force absorption for maybe pre-jogging phase. Even then, it tells you how important it is to reinforce the knee, learning how to absorb force over and over and over again. In my opinion, I think it is one of the most underemphasized portions of rehab. I think we're getting better in regards to strength training and things like that, but we need to teach the knee how to hit the brakes over and over and over again so that we can help reduce the chances of a non-contact injury happening when they get back to playing sports again. And that's one of the biggest things, right, is when that you think about an athlete who's coming off from a sprint. They're sprinting and they have to change directions, they plant that foot in the ground. It has to learn how to decelerate and then change directions. It's usually the deceleration portion that really gets people in trouble. So I think this is a great exercise to work on to reinforce that single leg landing, to kind of get those landing mechanics down and also just get the knee and the quads, everything used to absorbing force. So I'm starting with the 12-inch box. Obviously, there's something that you want to progress to. Eventually, maybe you want to go to a 15. I don't personally go beyond that. Maybe for some higher level kids, I might go to an 18-inch if they're a little bit taller. Obviously, height matters too. If you're working with a 5'2" kid, having them step off an 18-inch box versus a 6'5" kid stepping off an 18-inch box is going to be a really big difference. So over here, I'm doing a 12-inch box, which I think is a really good standard for all ACLs to be able to handle, especially kids who want to play sports again. Simply put, all I cue them is that I want to stepping off. I don't really want them jumping off too much. Obviously, you can progress to that if you really want to work on even more higher level landing. But for when you start working on this exercise, I want to work on more absorbing, right? Teaching their knee, having them understand like what is the intent behind this exercise. We are teaching your knee and your quads how to absorb force at a higher height. Okay, so when you're here, all I want to see is I have them step off, land on their ACL side, and usually I do this with both sides. And I've talked about this before, but I want to see their trunks in a relatively vertical, with only a slight trunk lean. I want their knees to bend. So I always use the analogy of I want your knees to be a spring. So when you land, you should be able to load that spring. That's what I really want to see, is absorbing that force. And I would like to see a little bit of a positive shin angle with that knee coming forward. So here, stepping forward, eyes are up, because a lot of kids are going to want to stare down, stepping off, bend, okay? And I want to see them own that spot. I tell them that. I want you to own that spot. You should hold it for 2 seconds, okay? A solid 2 seconds. It shouldn't be like you're falling out of it. That shows me that you have good control over your knee and your quads. Stepping, hold, okay? And you can even see me. I'm tilting a little bit, and it's hard for me to hold it for that full 2 seconds. Last one, step, hold. And that was probably my best one, okay? You also want to see minimum knee movement side to side. They should be able to demonstrate good control because this is a very controlled exercise. There's no other variables. I'm on a very flat surface. There's nobody pushing me or anything like that. Like, you should be able to do this at I would say a competent level. Let's say you're doing 10 reps. You should be able to stick 8 of these by the end of their rehab, right? When they're finishing off the rehab. And the easy way to, again, compare is to have them do it on the other side. If you're seeing a whole bunch of movement on their ACL side, they're flopping all over the place, they're leaning excessively forward, their knees are wigging all over the place, but yet you go to the non-ACL side and they're sticking for the most part, that is telling me that there is a difference in the way that knee is handling that landing task, okay? So I just demonstrated the forward, and I like to work on this type of exercise, and honestly, almost every exercise in multiple planes of motion, because that's how sports works. So that is more in the sagittal plane. So this is going to be the frontal plane, right? So off to the side, so lateral movements. Same concept. You're going to step off, eyes are up, step, hold. Okay? Same thing again. Eyes are up, stick, and hold. With the side one, you might see them lean, right? Because you're not going to lean to the side when you're when you're stepping forward. But when you're stepping to the side, they might have a tendency to kind of lean that way. Another cue that you want to cue them that you should be able to land with your trunk straight facing that way vertically, okay, and be relatively upright. So now we worked on two different planes, right? We worked on forward, we worked on sideways. Now we're gonna combine the two and work on an angle. So this is about a 45-degree angle, so now it's multi-plane, right? So here, you're going forward and to the side, still hips, chest facing this way, step at an angle, stick. And I did not do a good job of sticking. One more, eyes are up, stick, right? That one was way better than the last one. And with these type of exercises, it's just repetition over and over and over again, trying to get competent and more proficient at doing this type of task. Last variation before I go into a progression is transverse. So you're working on some sort of rotational component. So I usually will tell them that, hey, you're gonna start facing this way, you're gonna step off this way with your right leg, with your ACL side, or the side you're working on. You're gonna turn 90 degrees in the air and then land. So here, and this one is usually the hardest one. You could just have the toe tap there. And you see I had a little bit of a lean there, right? So there you go, 4 planes, or 4 different variations. You have the forward, sideways, combination and angle, and rotational for this single leg landing. Now the next question is, how do you make it harder, right? You always wanna be able to progress as long as it's an adequate and a good progression. I like to add a med ball. Med ball, number one, will add a little bit of weight. I usually don't have them go too heavy with this. This is a 4-pound med ball. Maybe the highest I'll go is like 6 to 8 pounds, depending on how big they are. And obviously a really, really big kid, you know, some 6'6" football player that comes in, I'll obviously go heavier. But for the most part, I think that you're trying to create a different stimulus, not trying to create or add excess load or weight to this specific type of motion. So for here, the way that I like to do it is, if I'm landing on my right leg, I'm going to chop from my left shoulder to my right hip to load that knee a little more and add a little bit of a stimulus that's gonna kind of throw me off a little bit. So when I'm here, step, hold, okay? So this rip kind of pulls me down a little quicker, and it just, again, just throws you off and it adds a little bit of a different stimulus. Same thing applies for every other direction. Here, stick. And you see I didn't stick it there. And again, you get the concept of you do it straight, you do it forward, same thing rotational, right? You fall, and then that, which is the hardest one, because that weight of that med ball really is rotating you, forcing you to have to really focus on sticking that landing. So yeah, that is how I like to teach and the compensation I'm looking for a single leg step off landing. Again, just to review, you want to make sure that their knee is actually absorbing. So you want to see their knee bend. You want to see their knee come forward. That is showing me that they're confident in loading that knee. Additionally, you're looking for their eyes to be up. You're looking for their trunk not to have excessive trunk lean. You should have only a little bit of a trunk lean. You're looking for their hips not to rotate. And you're looking for their knee not to be moving in and outward, right? Those are the kind of the really, really big things that I want you guys to take away from this video and things that I want you to pay attention to. And as always, you always want to be comparing between the ACL side and the non-ACL side. Maybe they're a floppy kid and maybe they're just not good at this stuff. And you know, they can only stick, whatever, 4 out of 10 on their non-ACL side, but they get to the point where they're sticking only 4 out of 10 on the ACL side. That at least gives you some idea that they are comparable or even. Obviously, we like that number to be a little bit higher, but you kind of get the idea. As opposed to if you get a little bit of a higher level kid, you know, they're sticking 8 out of 10, 8, 9 out of 10 on the non-ACL side, and they go to the ACL side and they can only stick 3 or 4. Same thing, that gives you an idea about where they are at as far as this specific type of motion goes. So yeah, hopefully you guys found this video helpful. Thank you for watching today's video. Please feel free to like and subscribe. I have started an ACL Mastermind Group, which is a program designed for physical therapists, physios, strength coaches, students, and athletic trainers who want to learn more about ACL Rehab. It currently holds over 600 videos and has over 500 members with new videos added every single month. The videos cover immediate post-op to late-stage sports-specific movements and everything in between. Content specifically also includes rehab complications, treatment philosophies, case studies where you can see my real life patients, movement assessments, exercise breakdowns so you understand how to properly teach the exercises. The exercises are also arranged by difficulty level for strengthening exercises, plyometrics, balance, and neuromuscular control. Of course, it also covers late stage for movement exercises from structured all the way to randomized and chaotic to mimic more sports-related settings. And lastly, you also learn how to do return to sport testing, which is extremely important, and this what ultimately determines whether or not someone is safe or not safe to return to sports again. There's also questions within the group where you can learn how I engage with patients and their parents of how to answer difficult questions throughout the rehab process, which is inevitable to come up. And lastly, you gain access to a private forum where you can ask questions directly to me and others within the community. We share research articles, we share other equipment and beneficial equipment and things like that. Anything that can come up within the ACL Rehab spectrum, that's when you can ask within the private forum. And lastly, you can also download the app where you can gain access in your respective facilities directly on your phones. If you have any interest, please feel free to click the link below, and I appreciate you watching today's video.